الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا اللهم بما علمتنا وزدنا اللهم علما وعملا إنك ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. أما بعد، فهذا درسنا في شرح بلوغ المرام للحافظ ابن حجر رحمه الله، وغفر الله لنا وله ولسائر المسلمين آمين. وكنا في باب شروط الصلاة، وأخذنا عدة من هذه الشروط، وسنكمل منها ما يتيسر إن شاء الله تعالى. We're still in the chapter of the conditions of the prayer. The condition meaning that which, if they're not present, the prayer will not count. Okay, the obvious ones, being upon wudu, facing qibla, being at the time of the prayer, and those such things we mentioned. Now we're going to mention some of the proofs for another condition. من شروط الصلاة إباحة الصلاة في البقعة. إباحة الصلاة في البقعة. The scholars mentioned this is like a condition, which is that this place should be permissible place of prayer. The place. Some places you can't pray in, as we mentioned. Okay? Generally, the whole earth you can pray in. Generally, the whole earth is permissible to pray. ده هذا هو الأصل. الأصل أن الأرض كله تصح الصلاة فيها. للحديث, there's a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim من حديث جابر ابن عبد الله رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جعلت لي الأرض مسجدا وطهورا. This famous hadith, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, the whole earth was made for me as a masjid and a purification, meaning turab. You can take the dirt and purify yourself from the dirt. And masjid doesn't mean masjid always the building. Okay, masjid means مكان للصلاة, مكان للسجود, والمراد بالسجود هنا الصلاة. Masjid means a place of sajda. I mean, you can make sajda, which means you can pray, basically. That's what the meaning of masjid is. So you can pray anywhere in the earth. And from the meaning also is the building, Baytullah, as with this building. That's another meaning of masjid. So masjid can have more than one meaning. Masjid can also mean a'dha as-sujud, the limbs by which we make sajda with al-a'dha sab'a, okay, the seven body parts. That's also meaning of masjid. But the point is that we can pray anywhere, except what is mentioned. There's some exceptions. From that, al-maqbara, عند القبور. We're not allowed to pray at the graves. In the graveyard, for sure. In the grave, where generally the vicinity of graves. We can't build a masjid, for sure, on the graves. Even less than that, we should not be praying at the graves. Okay? هذا من يستدل من حديث عدة أحاديث. There's many hadith indicating that. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا إن من كان قبلكم كانوا يتخذون قبور أنبيائهم وصالحيهم مساجد ألا فلا تتخذوا القبور مساجد فإني أنهاكم عن ذلك. Hadith أخرجه Muslim. Hadith in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, indeed those who came before you from the Jews and Christians and like, they used to take the grave sites of their prophets and their righteous people as masajid, meaning places of prayer. Either they built buildings of masjid, churches and so on, or they prayed at these sites. Both meanings are included. Assalamu rahmatullah. So this, Prophet ﷺ قال فَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا الْقُبُورَ مساجد. He said, do not take the graves as places of worship. So this shows this is from the condition that the place you're praying is not a place of a grave or a graveyard or even a masjid that has a grave in it, which there are in Muslim land. Many places, unfortunately, people are following the ways of the mushrikeen, the Jews and Christians. They built masjid upon the grave, or they bury a dead person in the in the masjid, and they pray in this building. It's a masjid, but it's a forbidden place of prayer because of this fact. Once you have the grave and the masjid together, we're not allowed to pray in this masjid. Okay? And what to do with this masjid, we'll mention inshallah.
What about Masjid and Nabawi? They built the masjid around the grave of the Prophet.
This is first of all this is the at the time of the question was what about Masjid al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Masjid al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam أصلا كان بعيدا عن بيت عن حجر عائشة الذي دفن فيه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. ما كان هناك اجتماع أو قرب بينهما في عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والصحابة. إنما فعل ذلك أحد الخلفاء أمر بذلك بعدهم بزمن طويل. والمهم أن هناك احتياطات. هم جعلوا جدران مثلثة بين القبر أو الحجر والمسجد. So generally the answer is this was not done by the Prophet. Did not order sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the masjid should be in the vicinity or to the grave. It was built distance from the grave. The masjid was there. The house was separate, meaning the house was separate. It was a different, separate building, totally. And whenever the early expansions were done by Uthman and by Umar and so on, they expanded to the other direction, either khalfan or أظن شرقا or جهة اليمين. They expanded to the opposite side of the grave or behind the masjid. This was always the case. Okay. Later on, one of the rulers came way after the Sahaba and decided to expand in the direction of the grave of the home of the Aisha radiallahu anha, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was buried. So this was done, and many of the scholars from them, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he didn't agree. He was the governor of Medina at the time. He didn't like it, and other from the scholars, I don't Ibn Sirin. No, I think he was one of the scholars, Thawri, one of the scholars at that time, also didn't agree. Okay, but this was not something that came by the order of the leader. But nonetheless, there are walls built between the house, which is the grave, and the masjid. So no one can actually face towards the grave directly in that vicinity. And if there is, a way to resolve the problem, it's not ideal. The answer is it's not ideal, and this was not what was indicated by the Prophet ﷺ by his burial, being away from the masjid, and by the Sahaba who expanded the masjid. They always avoided this direction because, as we said, the principle in al-qabr wal-salah والصلاة والمسجد والقبر في الإسلام لا يجتمعان أبدا. هذا كما قال الشيخ ربيع رحمه الله وحفظه الله وغيره من أهل العلم، الشيخ بن باز وابن تيمية وابن القيم، كلهم على قول بطلان الصلاة في مسجد فيه قبر، إما أن يسبق القبر المسجد أو يسبق المسجد القبر، لا يجتمعان، هذا ما يجوز. وأما مسجد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فما يقال أن القبر في المسجد، ما يقال أن المسجد عند التوسيعات قارب القبر، أو يعني هناك جدران بينه وبين القبر. So we said, don't say that the grave is in the masjid. We say the expansion of the masjid went towards the house, but nonetheless, ideally, if the situation avails itself, if there's a possibility to make it distant, and separate the house. This is ideal because this would be far away from any doubtful matter. But most people, it depends on the situation of the ummah. Because if you do that now, the scholars, if you do that now, it may cause a great commotion. And people may not be ready to understand why you're changing the Masjid al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, changing the structure of it at this time. Without the understanding, it may not be wise. That's what some scholars say. But nonetheless, it was not done. It's not. This is not something that was done by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the Sahaba. So generally, this is to be. It's not the ideal situation. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So فقلنا هذا من عمل اليهود والنصارى. هم كانوا إذا مات فيهم الرجل الصالح بنوا على قبره مسجدا. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم هم أشرار الخلق. هم أشرار الخلق. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, those who pray at the graves and build masjids, places of prayer upon the graves, they are the worst of the people. And this is, why is that? Even if a person says, أنا لا أعبد القبر, أنا لا أعبد الميت, أنا أعبد الله, لكن هذه ذريعة, هذه وسيلة إلى الشرك. قد يؤدي إلى تعظيم هذا الميت ودعاءه لغير الله من غير الله. Why? Because this will lead to shirk. What happens, a person, if he has a grave near to him, praying in a graveyard, he may say initially, I'm praying to Allah. I'm not praying to the dead person. That's fine, but with time, shaitan may whisper to him that there's some benefit. There's something virtuous to pray in this place because there's a wali, there's a pious person, or there's a prophet. And so your prayer here is better than anywhere else. So you should try to pray here. And then eventually he'll start to worship that dead person. And we're not also, just basically, we're not supposed to make ibadah at the graves. Not salah or anything else. Even dua, تخصيص القبر للدعاء وإن كان الدعاء لله هذا قد يؤدي إلى الشرك. A person also should not make dua to Allah around the graves. The graves are not for لا لقراءة القرآن لا للصدقة ولا أي نوع من العبادة. The grave is not a site for any type of worship, because that will lead to shirk, as Sheikh bin Baz said. So the grave, what do we do there? What's the purpose of, what is our role with the graveyard? نزور المقبرة للذكرى لتذكر الموت وأيضا للدعاء للميت لا للدعاء للميت. نعم. That we can make remembrance that the dead people remind us about death when we go to the graveyard, that we will also be in this situation one day. This is one purpose. And also we make dua for the dead when we go to the grave. So this is the only reason why we should be going to the graveyard, not for any other type of worship. So فإن كان هناك قبر في المسجد، إذا كان القبر سابقا للمسجد فالواجب هدم المسجد وإزالة المسجد عن القبر. وإن كان المسجد سابقا على القبر فالواجب أن ينبش القبر ويخرج عن المسجد. So it depends. When there is as we find in some Muslim lands, there are graves in the masjid actually, and people come and to pray in this masjid and think that there's a special reward and so on. This obviously leads to shirk, and many people end up trying to seek nearness to the dead person, praying to the dead person, giving sadaqah at the site of the grave, and thinking that the dua will be answered. All of this. So what do you do? What to do is, if the grave was first, okay, and then the masjid came later, then the masjid has to be removed, has to be torn down, okay, because the grave is more right, it was there first, okay. If the opposite is true, that the masjid was first and the grave was buried, the dead person was buried into the masjid, then it should be dug out and put in a proper place in the graveyard, away from the masjid. So this is the resolution to that problem. So we'll take the first hadith regarding this شرط. هو حديث 206 عن السادس بعد 200 عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الأرض كلها مسجد إلا المقبرة والحمام رواه الترمذي وقال له إلا. This hadith, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reported that he said, the earth is all of it is a masjid, except the graveyard, which we talked about, and the hammam. Hammam هو المكان المعد للاغتسال. It is the place of bathing, literally. That's the hammam. Maybe in modern terms, it's commonly used as a bathroom, hammam. But hammam in the original sense was the place of bathing, where they took baths. So this hadith مختلف في صحته وضعفه. صححه الشيخ الألباني ولكن عله الترمذي والدارقطني وغيرهما بالإرسال. قالوا أنه من قول التابعي أحد التابعين أرسله، أي قال عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دون ذكر أو دون يعني وجود صحابي في السند. So there's basically, this is what's called, some scholars say it's a weak hadith. Why? Because the Sahaba is not mentioned. The Sahabi is not mentioned in this chain. Who Abu Sa'id, because some narrators they mention it as the student of the Sahaba, Tabi'een. One of them he narrated from the Prophet. Of course, this is not possible. Okay, this means he got it from some other source, not from a Sahaba. Okay, so this would not be a connected chain. Anyways, some scholars say it's weak, and the reason why they also justify that is because الحمام ليس هناك فيه نجاسة. الغالب أنه طاهر عن النجاسة، فليس هناك إلا في بطلان الصلاة فيه. والمقبرة الصلاة فيها قلنا تؤدي إلى الشرك، وهذه العلة من تحريم الصلاة في المقبرة. أما الحمام فما دام أن هناك يعني نوع من ضعف في السند، فنرجع إلى الأصل. الأصل أن الأرض كله طهور، كله طهور وكله مسجد. So some scholars say, why? Because there's the place of bathing, there, as long as there's no najasa. Based on this hadith having some weakness in it, as long as there's no najasa, then there's no reason for prohibition of prayer there. Okay, you can say a place is not allowed to pray in. Either there's هناك إلا معنوية or إلا حسية. Either there's a reason that it leads to shirk, or you'll be distracted from prayer therein. Maybe you're distracting other people by praying there. Something you're harming other people by praying there, or you cannot pray in a sound mind in this place. Okay, that would be the reason. Or there could be a physical reason, like there's impurity there. Okay, like for example, makan qada al-haja, the place of one's relieving oneself, the place where a person goes to the bathroom, the toilet. The toilet. هذا مكان نجاسة أو مذنة النجاسة. This is a place either there is filth there, or there is likely some filth there. Okay, so this is not an appropriate place to pray in the toilet area. But we're talking about a room that is for bathing. So this is why some scholars say it's not prohibited to pray there, as long as this hadith is weak, as they say. But again, there's difference of opinion. We're talking about if you're in a situation where you don't find anything else. Naturally, one would not choose this place to pray, a bathing place. But if you don't find anything else, as long as there's no prohibition, then it would be allowed. So, anyways, that's the first hadith. So, any questions about that hadith? The maqbara is mentioned in other hadith, Bukhari and Muslim. Okay, now, the graveyard is clear. We don't need this hadith for prohibiting praying in the graveyard. But the question is the bathing place, the bathing you could say sauna or something like that. Definitely, you could say if there's a room, Okay, it's a big area, and if there's a room set aside for prayer, uh, then there's less distraction and no less reason, as long as the hadith is weak, to disallow prayer there. Okay, and also it's mentioned, it's similar to a place which is mentioned next hadith, which is a slaughterhouse. Okay, the slaughterhouse, again, if it's there may be filth there, right? Which is the filth? The slaughterhouse, the filth is هو الدم المسفوح. الدم المسفوح عند يعني ذبح البهائم هذا من النجائس كما قال الله سبحانه وتعالى, that when you slaughter the animal, even if the animal is halal, of course, the sheep or the camel, but the blood that spills out at the slaughter, this is najis, as Allah said, daman masfuh. So this may be in that area of the slaughterhouse. So we should not pray close to that najasa. All right? That's why, as you said, we cannot pray in a place where there's najasa. But what if it's a big, wide slaughterhouse? Okay? And there's every other corners of the slaughterhouse where the blood is not reached. Then, يعني إزالة العلة, the reason has been removed, which is the najasa. So you can pray in a different corner of the slaughterhouse. And this may be a situation that arises. For example, we go for slaughter, and the time for prayer comes in. We're in a slaughterhouse, right? So you may not find uh, another place to pray. If it's wide enough, spacious enough, go to the corner and pray. No problem. Okay. So the same could be said about hammam in that reasoning. So so we said that we know we cannot pray in a place where there's najasa. Okay. وهذا دليله أن الأعرابي بال في المسجد والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بأن يصب عليه ماء بأن يصب عليه ماء لأن الصلاة في هذا المكان ما يجوز مع وجود النجاسة. وهذا يدل على أن وجود النجاسة من موانع صحة الصلاة. من شروط الصلاة عدم وجود النجاسة في البقعة. So the proof, going back a little bit, that we cannot pray in a place where there's filth. The Prophet ﷺ, when the Bedouin came and urinated in the masjid out of ignorance, what did the Prophet ﷺ order? That there should be water poured upon that filth, because there's that would be against the condition of the prayer. The condition of the prayer is that the place is clean. وأيضا كون النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي وكان في نعليه قذر أو يعني عذرة، ف يعني أخبره جبريل بوجود العذرة، فخلع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نعليه أثناء الصلاة، وبين السبب في ذلك أن جبريل أخبره بذلك. لكن كونه نزع النعلين يدل على عدم يعني عدم جواز الصلاة مع وجود النجاسة في الثوب أو في المكان. So also the proof is that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was praying and he had some filth underneath his sandals, some filth, feces or the like, and he didn't know before he entered the prayer. But Jibreel ordered or informed him during the prayer that it was there, so he removed his sandals and continued praying. But the point is that this was something that goes against the condition, which is the finding some filth upon your clothing or in the place. So this is the condition, that the place should be a permissible place of prayer without anything that leads to shirk, or anything that has filth in it, or anything that would distract you from the prayer, from the prayer. وقال الشيخ ابن عثيمين رحمه الله أنه لا فرق في المقبرة بين أن تكون القبور خلفك أو أمامك أو عن يمينك أو عن شمالك، ما دام أن هذا المكان كله تابعا للمقبرة. When it comes to praying in the graveyard, a person can't say, that I'm not praying to the grave, it's behind me or it's to the right of me and it's okay now. No, it still will lead to, magnifying and feeling that these graves are some the virtue to pray here, and person may begin to worship these graves. So even if it's behind you, it doesn't. There's no excuse. There's no excuse basically to pray in a graveyard. In the end, it will lead to uh, closeness to these dead people and lead to worship them in some form. Yeah.
What about how some people pray Salatul Janazah at the grave?
That's a good question. Salat al-Janaza mustathna min hadha al-hukm. Salat al-Janaza is not a regular prayer, first of all. ليس فيه سجود ولا ركوع بخلاف باقي الصلوات. أيضا ثبت عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه صلى صلاة الجنازة في المقبرة، فدل هذا على الاستثناء عن عموم الصلوات. The salat janaza for the dead person. أيضا إنسان هنا بعيد أنه يصلي للميت، يعني أنه متبادل للذهن أنه يصلي على الميت وقت الجنازة، فيبعد أنه هذا يؤدي إلى أن يدعو للميت، إنما يدعو على الميت. So also, why is the janaza allowed? For many reasons. Number one, it doesn't have ruku and sujud. Okay, so even if the dead person is in front of you, and you're praying upon him in a graveyard, this is something. It's understood that you're praying for him. A special situation. You're praying for him. This is a very essential need for him, that people pray for him for his death, his right. You're giving him, and you're not praying. It cannot be understood in this isolated form of prayer that you're praying to him. Okay, and also there's this different kind of prayer. That's the main thing. It's not ruku and you're not making sujud. So this may be understood when you're making ruku and sujud that you're praying to a dead person. This is a completely different situation. So this is an exception to the rule. Whether you're praying at the graveyard or praying in a masjid upon the dead, you're not praying to him. You're praying upon him for his benefit. Similar like when you make dua for the dead. When you go to the graveyard making dua for the dead, it cannot be understood that you're trying to get any benefit for yourself and trying to make getting benefit from the dead. You're trying to benefit the dead. Similarly with Salat al-Janazah. So is that clear? Yeah. So that's so we'll take inshallah the next hadith we mentioned about other places which some scholars say are prohibited to pray in. But this hadith also is weak. But al-ma'ani, al-matan, له شواهد من أحاديث صحيحة، وهو حديث سابع بعد 200 عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يصلى في 7 مواطن. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم forbid to pray in seven places: المزبلة والمجزرة والمقبرة وقارعة الطريق والحمام ومعاطن الإبل وفوق ظهر بيت الله تعالى. ورواه الترمذي وضعفه الألباني وابن حجر وغيرهما. والحديث ضعيف قلنا ولكن المتن له شواهد. So this hadith, although it's weak in its chain, it says but it has some meanings that are authentic based on other evidences we'll mention. So the hadith says there's 7 places the Prophet ﷺ forbade to pray in. The mazbala, which is the garbage dump, the place of garbage. Al-majzara, the slaughterhouse. Al-maqbara, the graveyard, as you said. Qari'at al-tariq means the pathway where people walk. Hammam, the place of bathing. Ma'atin al-ibil, the places where camels either stable, where they sleep, or where they drink water and they settle after drinking water. Places of camels. And above the roof of the Kaaba, on the roof of the Kaaba. So the first one, the garbage dump, there's a reason you could understand, okay, that this is not appropriate place to pray. Besides this hadith, the hadith we said is weak, okay? Why? Because there may be some najasa. There may be some najasa in the garbage dump. Okay, this would be not fitting for a person to pray there. Also, he may be distracted because يشوش عن صلاته من الروائح روائح الكريهة. فليس هناك هذا المكان ليس يعني مناسب للصلاة. والإنسان ما يستطيع أن يطمئن في صلاته in the المزبلة, because a person may not be able to concentrate on the prayer. It's going to be smells and things. So you could reason that this is a place, besides possibility having filth there, it will be distracted from the smells and so on in this place. Well, majdara, the slaughterhouse. We mentioned this one before because of dam masfuh, the blood that spills at the time of slaughter. This is najas. So if he's close to that, it will affect the validity of his prayer. Again, unless it's a wide place, he can go to a corner in a room and so on. That's no problem. So مقبرة, we said قارئة الطريق, يعني الطريق المقروءة التي يتركه الناس. فإذا كان الطريق مهجورة ليس هناك أناس يمشون عليه فلا يدخل في الحديث ولا يدخل في المنع. وكذلك الطريق الواسع وفي جوانبه أماكن لا تطرق فلا يدخل في الحديث ولا يدخل في النهي. So when we say the pathway, the reason why the pathway, you could say, would not be a place to pray, because you're going to be distracted from the prayer. أنت تشوش عن صلاتك بسبب المرور. الناس يمرون عليك، كيف يعني تركز على الصلاة في هذه الحال؟ هذا مستحيل. وإذن قد تضيق على الأناس طريقهم، وهذا من من الاعتداء على الناس، وهذا من ظلم الناس، فما يجوز. وقلنا يستثنى من ذلك الطريق الواسع والطريق المهجورة. So the problem when you pray in the pathway, either you cannot concentrate yourself because people are walking all around you, or you're going to be narrowing their pathway, their walking place, and you're harming them in that way. This is their right, this is how they go from A to B. So how can you disturb people like that? You can find a better place to pray. Except if, of course, there's no people walking. It could be a pathway, there's no people, then there's no problem. Okay? There's no reason to prohibit prayer there. Or it's a wide walkway, very wide. People are walking on this side, you're praying on that side. Okay? So this is, you could consider depending on the situation. وقال الشيخ هنا مسألة مهمة. قال كثير من الحجاج والمؤتمرين في الحرم يصلون النوافل البعدية في الطرقات والممرات فيكون بين أيديهم المشاة والمارة. فهل لهذا المصلي حرمة؟ يعني هل له حرمة أنه ما يجوز أن تمر بين يديه بأنه مصلي؟ يقول الشيخ كل من صلى في موضع خاص بغيره فليس له حرمة، لأن هذا اعتدى على حقوق الآخرين. فلذلك إن الذين يصلون في المطاف ليس لهم حرمة، ولهذا مر بين أيديهم ولا تبالي، لأن أنت أحق بهذا المكان. هذا مكان طواف، هذا مكان مرور، وهذا الإنسان اعتدى على غيره بأن صلى في هذا المكان، وهو المعتدي. The Sheikh said, this is an important point. Sometimes people who make Hajj or Umrah, they start to pray wherever they want, okay? In the middle of the walkway of the people, especially in the mataf. Mataf, people are coming for tawaf, okay? They have to make their rukun, and they have to do their ibadah. Person comes and prays there. What do you do? Because generally you're not supposed to pass in front of a person when he's praying, between him and his place of sujood, meaning he won't have a sutra, of course. If you have sutra, that's different, but there's no sutra for him. So unless he's praying, of course. But anyways, he's praying in a place he's not supposed to pray. He's harming others. It's their right to make tawaf. It's their right to go mas'a in the sa'i also. So he's gone and into their realm. So he has no, he has no right in this case. You can walk right in front of him. That's what the Sheikh is saying, because he's the one who did what he's not supposed to do. Okay. And hammam we talked about. Ma'atin al-ibil. Okay, this is the, as we said, the stables of the ibil. Before we go to that, any questions so far of the places we've taken that's mentioned in the hadith?
Pray behind Maqam Ibrahim, then do not pray right over there.
This is, they have, this is the right to pray there, Maqam Ibrahim.
They pray behind Maqam Ibrahim.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not very clearly even defined there.
yeah. I mean, this is the right. This is the place there. This is the place where they have a right to pray. The sunnah to pray. Yani,
There's a lot of traffic there, and you hit people.
yeah, there has to be some organization.
Yeah, they need to organize that, but hit people in the head and they're praying and people walking.
I mean, you can pray also. They should not do something that creates a crowd. Okay, generally. So a person إن يصلي خلف مقام إبراهيم يصلي في مكان بعيد ما يضر. لا ما يلزم أن يصلي خلف مقام إبراهيم مباشرة إذا كان هناك زحمة. It doesn't mean when we come to pray also behind Maqam Ibrahim, when we after we make tawaf, we pray 2 rak'ah behind the place Ibrahim. This is sunnah of Umrah and so on. It doesn't, not a must that a person has to pray right behind. He can take some distance back a little bit and away from the crowd, and he still satisfies the obligation. So that's true. A person should not, add to the crowd. But there's people, can organize that, inshallah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we'll take, inshallah, al-ma'atin al-ibl. Ma'atin al-ibl هذا ثبت في حديث صحيح. Okay, سئل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الصلاة في مآطن الإبل أو مبارك الإبل قال لا تصلوا فيها فبين العلة فقال أنها الإبل خلقت من شياطين أو أنها من شياطين. So we're not allowed to pray in the places of the camels gathering, whether it be proper stables where they sleep and so on, or يدخل في ذلك قال الشيخ ابن عثيمين يعني ما تقف فيه بعد الشرب لأن الإبل من عادتها إذا شربت فإنها تتقدم قليلا عن الحوض ثم تقف وتبقى تبول وتبعر فيقال هذا من مآطن الإبل. So when the camels generally when they drink from a pond and so on, they step back a little bit and they settle there and relieve themselves and so on. It's a gathering place and a camel's place. This is besides the camel stables where they sleep. Okay, both are called ma'atin al-ibl, or the places of the camels. The Prophet was asked, "Can we pray in these places?" He said, "No." Okay, and he explained. He said they are from shayateen. The camels are made from shayateen, or they're from shayateen. And the Sheikh he explained. خلقت من شياطين أي من طبيعتها الشيطنة والتمرد. The Sheikh he said because the camels have a nature of rebelliousness and roughness. والغلظة والأنف. They're rough animals, okay, and they they may trample you basically in their roughness. If you're going to pray in their place, they may trample you, or at the very least, you'll be distracted by possible harm of them to you. So that's the reason why we're not allowed to pray there. وإن لم يكن هناك إبل في معاطن الإبل مكان مبيت الإبل كيف لو كان ليس هناك إبل نقول هذا مأوى الشياطين. هذا مأوى الشياطين لأن الشيطان يصحب الإبل. الشياطين تصحب الإبل فلذلك نهي عن الصلاة في هذه الأماكن. What if a person may say, what if there's no camels there? What if it's an empty stable? We say because they have this nature, the shayateen are with them, okay, and maybe settling in this place, even if the camels are not there. So this is not a place because of the fact that shayateen like this place, just like the shayateen like the place of bathroom. The camels have this nature Not that they're evil animals. I'm not saying that, but we're saying that they have some roughness. Okay, so this place you may be harmed in this place, and you should not pray therein. Yeah. Question.
So if they come from the shaitan or everything, how come they're used so much in tablets and stuff from there? Like I
I
don't
mean,
understand how.
there's a benefit. Things, many things. There's a benefit. Okay, and there's good qualities and there's bad qualities. Okay, and there's a benefit in them, of course, but they have this quality that in this isolated, just in this form, that if you to pray in their place, your prayer is not going to be have the is not going to be proper. So you're not supposed to pray there. You're not allowed to pray there. That's just in that isolated fashion. But the, that doesn't apply to all association or any association with camels. Only in this particular fashion. Okay. Also, when it applies to eating the meat of the camel, there's a hadith that uh, uh, أن على من أكل لحم الإبل عليه الوضوء أن أكل لحم الإبل ينقض الوضوء وهذا ثابت في الصحيح والإلا نفس الإلا لأنها أنها فيها غلظة الإبل فيها شيطنة وخلقت يعني من شيطنة والشياطين خلقت من نار وبماذا تطفئ النار بالماء ولذلك تتوضأ يعني خلف أكل لحم الإبل هذا مناسب. So also the meat, the meat has from the animals, from the camels, it breaks one's wudu. This is the correct opinion based upon the hadith. So what does a person have to do? He has to make wudu after eating camel meat. Because camels, like we said, are created from this roughness. They're in the shayateen are created from what? From fire. So how do you put out fire? With water. Okay? It has these qualities. Also, generally, it's well known that the shepherds of camels are different from shepherds of sheep. It's well known. Okay? Camel يعني الإبل تؤثر على من يراعيها فيصير عنده يعني رعاة الإبل غلظة وشدة ما لم يكن عند رعاة الغنم هذا معروف مشهود. Also, it's well known that the shepherds of camels, they have roughness. Okay? Yes, there's a benefit in camels. But if you had a choice, all the prophets were what? Many prophets were shepherds of sheep. Sheep have gentleness. Sheep have very, they go along with you. They won't rebel against you the way that camels will. Camels may trample you. Camels are rough. Okay? And that roughness affects the shepherds. It's well known. It's very widely known that the shepherds of camels have a roughness, have the toughness in them, in their qualities that with the shepherds of sheep do not have. The sheep caretakers, they have very gentleness, and therefore the prophets were shepherds of sheep. And so, I mean, there's obviously المصلحة فيها أعظم من المضرة. إذا حل الله شيئا فلأن المصلحة فيه أعظم من مفسدته وإذا حرم شيئا فمفسدته أعظم من مصلحته. هذا من حكمة الله. And we should know that Allah, when He allows something to partake in something or to deal with something, that the benefit outweighs the harm. Okay, the benefit outweighs the harm. If you forbid something, then the harm outweighs the benefit. Okay, like khamr wal maysar. Allah said فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس. Okay, هناك منافع في الخمر والميسر لكن إثمهما أكبر لذلك حرمهم الله. Also look for alcohol and gambling. Some people may say in this country, lottery makes money. Okay, it's good for the economy. Gambling, they may claim that. Okay, or there may be some other perceived benefits. But Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said about gambling and alcohol uh, uh, that the sin of it is big, although there is some benefit. Although there is some benefit, maybe other than economical, there is some benefit, but the sin is big. People claim that for example, the alcohol may have some benefit, but the harm some health benefit, may claim, I don't know if it's true, but the harm of it, from the aspect of making a person lose his, inhibitions and do all kinds of crimes in a state of drunkenness, the harm of this, and he's almost crazy in this drunken state, the harm is bigger. So that's why Allah forbid the alcohol and the gambling. So, anyways, is that clear on that point? I think we, what do we have left here? So, anyways, to summarize, that the prohibition of the prayer, or I'm sorry, the prayer is generally allowed in all places, except which is either leads to some harm, like shirk, or harming other people in that location, or you being not able to concentrate in that prayer, or that's some ma'anawi, some like you could say linguistic meaning, not a physical meaning, or there's a physical najasa. If there's physical najasa there, like a bathroom, like blood there, and so on, then that's for that reason. You're prohibited to pray there. But otherwise, all other places are masjid, a place of sujood. So, inshallah, we'll complete this topic in the next class. إن كان في الأمور بقية وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله خيرا أجمعين. إلا إذا كان هناك أسئلة. Any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll stop there. You had a question?
So when you see how you said you can't pray when there's blood, what if you're in the middle of the prayer and then your nose starts bleeding or
Oh, yeah. When I say blood, I mean only some kinds of blood. Like the blood when you slaughter an animal, go to the slaughterhouse, go to the farm, or so on. If you ever been there, you've been there. When you slaughter the animal, that blood that sprays out from the neck, that is filthy blood. That's dirty blood. That's the blood I'm talking about. The blood of your human being, it's not filthy, because we're not filthy. Okay, and there's no proof to say that nose blood is filthy, or if you have a cut, because the Sahaba, they used to pray when they had cuts, in the battle. They continued to pray. So we talked about that last time. That some scholars say that the blood from the human being is okay. Only certain bloods, like we talked about. Of course, the woman's blood, monthly blood, we talked about. That's filthy. But besides that, دم حيض, دم مسفوح, هذا مستثنى. ودم ما لا يؤكل لحمه. Of course, the blood of any animal that we're not allowed to eat. Okay, but meaning like the blood, in the body itself. But even the animals like sheep and camels, when we cut that blood that sprays out, Allah said, "Haram, it's najis, dam masfuh." Okay. Besides that, it's tahir, inshallah. Okay. We'll stop there. Jazakumullah khairan. Wa barakallahu feekum.
Is that-
Yeah.